Ernest, and you're watching Eagle News International.
And I'm CJ Hero. Here are tonight's headlines.
A 6-magnitude earthquake struck near California's border with Nevada, rattling people in nearby cities, including Sacramento, but there were no immediate reports of damage or casualties.
Beating the merciless heat is hard in the Indian desert city of Srikanganagar, a reality facing millions across the vast country as the climate changes in the coming decades.
The World Health Organization said there was a likely causal association between coronavirus vaccines using mRNA technology and the very rare heart inflammations, but the benefits still outweigh the risk.
And children as young as 5 years old can now go outdoors despite the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic, as long as they are residing in areas placed under general community quarantine and modified GCQ.
Heightened restriction. Ano bang outdoor area?
First, a magnitude 6 earthquake struck south of Lake Tahoe just before 4 p.m. local time yesterday near the California-Nevada border. The moderate shallow quake in Northern California hit around 50 miles or 75 kilometers away from Carson City in neighboring Nevada, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, and was followed by a series of minor tremors felt in parts of both western U.S. states. Now, this video from Brett Durant shows boulders scattered in the road on Highway 395 near Colville, a town in Mono County, following a magnitude 6 earthquake that jolted both sides of the border between California and Nevada. And you can see cars weaving through lanes to avoid the large rocks in the road. The California Governor's Office Emergency Services Division said it was actively monitoring the situation. USGS said there was a low likelihood of casualties and damage from the quake based on its size and location.
A 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Indonesia's Sulawesi Island Saturday, the United States Geological Survey said, but no tsunami warning was issued and there were no immediate reports of damage. The strong quake hit 258 kilometers northeast of the city of Manado in North Sulawesi at a depth of 68 kilometers. Indonesia experiences frequent quakes due to its position on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intense seismic activity where tectonic plates collide that stretches from Japan through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific Basin. In January, more than 100 people were killed and thousands left homeless by a 6.2 magnitude quake that struck Sulawesi, reducing buildings to a tangled mass of twisted metal and chunks of concrete in the seaside city of Mamuju. A powerful quake shook the island of Lombok in 2018, and several more tremors followed over the next couple of weeks, killing more than 550 people on the Holiday Island and neighboring Sumbawa.
And another earthquake. This time it struck eastern Tajikistan this morning, killing at least 5 people, according to authorities in the mountainous Central Asian country. Tremors from the 5.9 magnitude quake could be felt in the capital of Dushanbe, 165 kilometers southwest of the epicenter. Dozens of houses were destroyed, according to the Tajik Committee for Emergency Situations. Power lines were also partly damaged in 3 villages in the district of Tachikabad, where all the victims lived. The quake struck at 7:14 a.m. local time at a depth of 10 kilometers, according to the committee and state news agency Kovar. Tajik President Emomali Rahmon has ordered the commission of inquiry headed by the Prime Minister, according to Russian media. Turkmenistan, bordering Afghanistan, is frequently hit by earthquakes.
Meanwhile, a man comes very close to being struck by lightning outside his home in Massachusetts as Bob Brandon drags a garbage can up his driveway after returning home from work. A bellowing boom is heard, followed instantly by a lightning bolt. Take a look.
Meanwhile, several subway stations were flooded and major roads were cut in New York ahead of the expected arrival of Storm Elsa, which has moved up the U.S. East Coast after lashing Florida with wind and rain. Viral footage of the riders in New York City struggling to get to their one train at the 157th Street station had garnered more than 8.5 million views on Twitter by Friday morning. Floods and down streets continue to plague New York City commuters on Friday. Several officials, including Eric Adams, president of Brooklyn, and the favorite for the November mayoral election in New York after winning the Democratic primary this week, called for urgent investments to fortify the city's infrastructure. Meanwhile, about 40 million people in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New York woke up to flash flood warnings as Tropical Storm Elsa was expected to creep up the New England coastline. Some regions of New England were bracing for as much as 6 inches of rain Friday, U.S. time.
Staying in the U.S., a California wildfire underwent explosive growth Friday as the area north of Lake Tahoe braced for triple-digit temperatures this weekend amid a summer heat wave. An NBC report said that the Beckworth Complex fire on federal land near the town of Beckworth prompted evacuations, a closure of part of the Plumas National Forest, and presented serious danger for area campgrounds. The complex fire nearly doubled by Friday, adding 10,000 acres to its footprint, according to forest officials. It was 94 degrees Friday in Beckworth, about 55 miles north of Lake Tahoe. An excessive heat warning was scheduled to take effect Saturday at noon through Monday night. The National Weather Service said the warning signifies dangerously hot conditions and temperatures at near 100 degrees. California has experienced some 600 wildfires this year than at the same time in 2020, the worst year in modern history when the state saw more than 4 million acres scorched.
Now, beating the merciless heat is hard in the Indian desert city of Sri Ganganagar, a reality facing millions across the vast country as the climate changes in the coming decades. While people in richer nations can find some respite from a warming planet with air conditioners and other modern luxuries, many here and elsewhere in India don't even have running water. Take a look.
दोपहर में ज़्यादा दिक्कत होती है, गर्मी ज़्यादा तापमान होने के कारण से लोग घरों से बाहर नहीं निकलती है, बिल्कुल ही नहीं निकलता। लमसम 45 से लेकर ऊपर 50 के बीच में तापमान रहती है इसके अंदर। इसलिए दोपहर को जो ग्राहक भी नहीं निकलते, घर से कोई आदमी भी नहीं निकलते, इस टाइम घर के अंदर ही रहते हैं। बिल्कुल सुना सा हो जाता है जगह ये।
Ganagar in the desert state of Rajasthan near the Pakistan border is regularly India's hottest place, and temperatures of 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit are nothing out of the ordinary. So the district's 2 million people, equivalent to the population of Slovenia, get up early during the long summer months. By late morning, the sun is already ferocious and the temperature a brutal 42 Celsius, and everyone soon retreats to their homes until early evening. And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back to the news. Bangladesh police arrested for murder the owner of a factory where 52 people died in an inferno as it emerged that children as young as 11 had been working there. Police said the owner of the food factory and 4 of his sons were among 8 people detained over the fire that broke out Thursday and raged for more than a day. A separate inquiry has been launched into the use of child labor at the facility. Jayadul Alam, police chief for Narayanganj district, where the factory is located, said the entrance had been padlocked at the time of the blaze and the factory breached multiple fire and safety regulations. Emergency services found 48 of the body on the 3rd floor of the Hashem food and beverage factory in Rupganj, an industrial town outside Dhaka. A fire services spokesman said the exit door to the main staircase had been padlocked. Highly flammable chemicals and plastics had also been stored in the building. Monujan Sufyan, State Minister for Labor, said inquiries had begun into the use of child workers at the factory. Sufyan told AFP she had spoken at a hospital to 2 survivors aged 14. One woman said her 11-year-old nephew had been working at the factory and was missing and feared dead.
And the death toll from the collapse of an apartment building in Florida has now risen to 79 after 14 bodies were recovered from the rubble, according to authorities. Let's listen in.
Now uncovered an additional 14 victims of this tragedy. This brings the total number of confirmed fatalities to 78. This is a staggering and heartbreaking number that affects all of us very, very deeply.
Tower South, a 12-story building in Surfside, a town north of Miami Beach, came tumbling down on June 24 as dozens of residents slept inside. No survivors have been found since the day of the collapse. Authorities announced on Wednesday they had decided to transition from a search and rescue mission for potential survivors to an operation to recover remains. Multiple investigations are underway to determine the cause of the collapse. A 2018 report released by city officials revealed fears of major structural damage in the complex, from the concrete slab under the pool deck to columns and beams in the parking garage. In a letter to residents in April, Jean Wodnicki, chair of the Condo Association, described accelerating damage to the 40-year-old building since then, and repairs had been set to begin soon.
A Frenchman in Japan who says his children were abducted by their Japanese mother began a hunger strike in Tokyo in a protest he hopes will bring international attention to his fight to be reunited with his family. "I've given everything," he said. "I've lost my job, my house, and my savings in the last 3 years. I weigh 80 kilograms now, and I'll give it all until the very last gram," Vincent Fischel told AFP sitting at the entrance to a train station in Tokyo, not far from the new Olympic Stadium. Fischel, 39, who has lived in Japan for 15 years, said he will not give up his hunger strike until his children, a boy and a girl aged 6 and 4, are returned to him. His wife has accused him in court of domestic violence, and he said later that was retracted. And the Japanese justice system now has nothing to reproach me for, he said. Joint custody of children in cases of divorce or separation does not exist legally in Japan, where parental abductions are common and often tolerated by local authorities. No official numbers exist, but rights groups have estimated that about 150,000 minors are forcibly separated from a parent every year in the East Asian archipelago. He said he plans to continue his hunger strike day and night and says if police chase him away, he will go elsewhere.
In other news, children as young as 5 years old can now go outdoors despite the prevailing coronavirus pandemic, as long as they are residing in areas placed under general community quarantine and modified GCQ. Let's listen in.
Pinayagan ng inyong IATF na lumabas sa outdoor areas ang mga bata, ang ating mga chikiting, na may edad 5 taon at pataas sa ilalim ng Modified General Community Quarantine or General Community Quarantine liban sa mga heightened restrictions. Ano bang outdoor areas? Ayon sa IATF, kasama rito ang mga parks, playgrounds, beaches, biking at hiking trails, outdoor tourist sites at attractions. Ayon sa Department of Tourism, outdoor non-contact sports, sports courts at venues at fresco dining establishments matatagpuan sa aking mga binanggit na mga lugar. Ang mixed-use indoor-outdoor buildings at facilities tulad ng malls at katulad ng establishments ay hindi kasama sa pinayagang outdoor areas para sa mga bata. Dagdag pa rito, ang mga bata ay kinakailangan na babantayan ng mga adults at kinakailangan rin nilang mag-observe ng minimum public health standards katulad ng pagsusuot ng face masks at social distancing. Maaring taasan ng local government units ang nasabing age restrictions ng mga bata ayon sa COVID-19 situation sa kanilang lugar.
The case fatality rate, or CFR, of the COVID-19 in Metro Manila had a significant decrease since the beginning of the year, according to Okta Research today. In its latest monitoring, the group said the fatality rate dropped to 0.78% from June to July 6, down from the 1.06% recorded from January to March 31, 2021. This means there are now less than 1 out of every 100 COVID-19 cases dying due to COVID, it said. In 2020, Okta Research recorded a 2.32% CFR in NCR, which meant more than 2 out of 100 cases died of the disease.
And the World Health Organization said that there was a likely causal association between coronavirus vaccines using mRNA technology and very rare heart inflammations, but the benefits still outweigh the risks. Now, the UN Health Body's Global Advisory Committee on Vaccine Safety, or GACVS, said that cases of myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle, and pericarditis, inflammation of the lining around the heart, had been reported in multiple countries, especially in the United States. The reported cases have typically occurred within days of vaccination, more commonly among younger males and more often following the second dose of COVID-19 mRNA vaccines, according to the committee in a statement. After reviewing available data, the GACVS judged that current evidence suggests a likely causal association between myocarditis and the mRNA vaccines. Even regulators in Europe said that heart inflammation is a very rare side effect of COVID vaccines made by Pfizer and Moderna. Myocarditis and pericarditis will be officially listed as side effects in the UK and Europe, mirroring a move by the regulators in the US last month. There was no link found for vaccines such as Oxford AstraZeneca or Janssen, which use a genetically modified virus.
Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire said Filipino health experts have yet to recommend the use of booster shots for those fully vaccinated against COVID-19. In a Laging Handa briefing, Vergeire cited the lack of full evidence over the additional jab's efficacy as well as the immunity the initial vaccines provide against the disease. She also noted the scarcity of a study covering other vaccines that the Philippines currently have, like China's Sinovac and Russia's Sputnik V. Take a look.
Ang booster shots po ay wala pang masyadong sufficient evidence na lumalabas, especially dito po sa mga platforms o bakuna na meron tayo sa ating bansa, katulad ng Sinovac, ng Sputnik V. Kailangan po natin maging maingat, doble ingat sa pag-adapt ng ganitong practices kasi kailangan po natin masiguro na magiging safe ito para sa ating populasyon. So sa ngayon po, ang ating mga eksperto ay hindi pa inirekomenda itong booster shots na ito dahil wala naman po nakakapaglabas pa ng full evidence to state na hanggang ganito lang tatagal ang immunity na binibigay ng ating bakuna o di kaya if it's going to really boost the efficacy of these vaccines kapag naglagay ka ng booster. Pangalawa at pinaka-importante, pag naglagay ho tayo ng booster shots, this means that we are going to set aside ito pong mga taong hindi pa nababakunahan mula pa nung nag-umpisa tayo mabakunahan. Now that our vaccines are still unstable pagdating sa supply, bigyan po natin ng tsansa makapagpabakuna tayo sa lahat ng kailangang bakunahan sa ating bansa. And pag lumabas na po yung sufficient evidence for these booster doses, atin po yung pag-aaralan at magbibigay tayo ng rekomendasyon.
Meanwhile, Thai authorities announced a 7-hour night curfew across the capital Bangkok and 9 provinces, along with tougher restrictions to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Let's listen in.
Culturally. Firstly, of course, avoid making unnecessary travel trips. The public is also asked to stay at home from 2100 hours to 0400 hours. So that's 9 p.m. until 4 a.m. in the morning. Leave your residence only for important reasons, for essential purposes. Also, the prohibition of gathering of not more than 5 people, with the exception of certain cultural events such as funerals. So from Monday, the 12th of July onwards, the restrictions will include the closure of shopping centers in these 6 provinces, starting on Monday, with the exception of supermarkets, takeout restaurants, banks, and financial institutions. The restaurants, markets, and convenience stores, standalone ones, must be closed at 2000 hours, 8 p.m., and may resume service at 0400 hours or 4 a.m. Public transportation will stop their service from 9 p.m., 2100 hours, and resume service at 0300 hours or 3 a.m.
Volunteers have stepped in to help make coffins in Indonesia capital as the country is facing surging demand because of the worsening coronavirus outbreak there. Coffin makers in Indonesia are being overwhelmed as they face surging demand because of the country's worsening coronavirus outbreak. The Southeast Asian archipelago is facing its most serious outbreak yet, driven by the highly infectious Delta variant, reporting hundreds of deaths and tens of thousands of cases daily. In the hard-hit capital, Jakarta, volunteers have stepped in to help make coffins, with the car park of a local government office transformed into a makeshift workshop. They can make up to 15 simple plywood coffins a day. At another workshop, ambulances from overwhelmed hospitals and pickup trucks queued to pick up coffins being distributed for free by the Jakarta government from the back of a van.
And staying in Indonesia, the country received desperately needed supplies of oxygen and protective equipment from neighboring Singapore to support its overwhelmed healthcare system as the country battles its deadliest coronavirus wave yet. The Southeast Asian archipelago is being hit by a major outbreak driven by the highly infectious Delta variant, which has led authorities imposing new curbs nationwide.
Yang saat ini dikirimkan adalah ventilator, kemudian masker, kemudian ada APD, kemudian botol oksigen, itu nanti akan dikirim via kapal, akan tiba nanti di tanggal hari Rabu.
Hospitals are struggling to cope with many now refusing new patients, leaving scores to die at home, while desperate relatives hunt for oxygen tanks to treat the sick. The city-state's foreign ministry said Singapore sent supplies, including oxygen cylinders, ventilators, masks, gloves, and gowns on 2 Air Force planes to Jakarta. Another 1,000 ventilators arrived from Australia later Friday, while Indonesian officials plan to buy more supplies of oxygen and other equipment.
Eagle News will be back with more stories. Please don't go away.
Hi everyone, we are Suzara.
Please catch us on Letters and Music, on air and online.
This Sunday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m.
Only here on Net25.
See ya. Stay safe.
Dahil sa patuloy ang tao sa paggamit ng iba't ibang hair products, hindi malayong marami ang makakita ng business opportunities sa mga produktong ito.
Trial and error talaga siya until you find the perfect formula.
Pag ginamit ko siya, magkakakulay na ako, gano'n.
Oo, pag ginamit mo siya, i-apply mo siya na parang shampoo application.
Pumokus ako dito sa paggawa ng pomade. And then, doon ko nakita na talagang it's enough na to para sa family ko.
Sa salon yan, yung mga pangkulay na ginagamit, may mga ammonia yun. Hinahalo yun.
Wala sa iyo yun.
Itong organic na brand natin, wala.
Ako po, si Robin Padilla, at ito po ang ulat. Kagapay sa hanap buhay.
Sa hanap buhay.
Welcome back to the news. A Reuters report said North Korea has rejected planned shipments of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine that were being organized under the global COVAX distribution scheme due to concerns over side effects, according to a South Korean think tank. Pyongyang closed its borders in January last year to try to protect itself against the virus that first emerged in neighboring China. It has not publicly confirmed any cases of the disease at any point, either in state media or in the test statistics it has disclosed to the World Health Organization. Ever since the pandemic began, North Korean state media have highlighted anti-coronavirus measures, and officials have exhorted citizens to remain vigilant. At a military parade in October, Kim himself tearfully thanked his people for their efforts and said the North had not seen a single case of the evil virus, although analysts have long doubted that assertion. According to the report by the Institute for National Security Strategy, which is affiliated with South Korea's spy agency, Pyongyang is now looking at other vaccine options.
In the Netherlands, Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte announced a number of measures to curb a rapid spike in coronavirus infections in the country, including closing discos and nightclubs and curbing restaurant hours. Infections rose sevenfold in the lowlands country in 1 week, with 7,000 new cases reported on Friday, according to Mr. Rutte, mainly because of the highly infectious U.S. Delta variant, forcing government to walk back an easing of restrictions. The government therefore decided to order the closure of all discos, nightclubs, and the closures of restaurants at midnight. All visitors to restaurants and cafes must now adhere to the 1.5-meter social distancing rule, adding that no live music or entertainment would be allowed. Events lasting longer than 24 hours have been put on ice, according to the top Dutch official. Measures will start at 6 a.m. Saturday and last until at least August 13.
The Spanish region of Catalonia was on Saturday set to reimpose virus restrictions in the face of rising coronavirus infections as the highly contagious Delta strain forced nations worldwide to put the brakes on a long-awaited return to normalcy. After an exponential rise in cases in recent days, officials in the autonomous region in the northeast of Spain said they had no choice but to reimpose restrictions. Nightclubs will be closed as of this weekend, and a negative COVID-19 test or a proof of vaccination will be needed to take part in outdoor activities involving more than 500 people. Spain on June 26 stopped requiring masks outdoors in situations where it was possible to maintain social distancing. A few other smaller regions have reimposed restrictions on social life in recent days to try to tame a rise in infections. Just over 40% of Spain's 47 million people have been fully vaccinated, one of the highest levels in Europe, but the share falls to 1 in 10 vaccinated in the 20 to 29 age group.
The World Health Organization has pleaded with countries to use extreme caution when lifting COVID restrictions so as not to lose the gains they've made. Let's listen in.
All regions of WHO have increasing cases in this last week. This is not a flat curve. This is an increasing curve. Making assumptions that transmission will not increase because we're opening up because of vaccine is a false assumption. Transmission will increase when you open up because, number one, we don't have vaccines in everybody, and number two, the vaccine coverage rates are lower, and we're not still sure to what extent vaccination protects against the ability to be infected. This means with increased transmission in the community, we then put our most vulnerable at risk again. It's about preventing being exposed to the virus and preventing you exposing others to the virus. Look around in your community. Know the local numbers. If the virus is present in your community and transmitting, and you're a vulnerable person and you're not vaccinated, then you are potentially going to be exposed. So the idea that everyone is protected and it's kumbaya and everything goes back to normal, I think right now is a very dangerous assumption. Anywhere in the world, we would ask governments to be really careful at this moment, not to lose the gains you've made, to open up very carefully. This virus is evolving, this virus is changing, and we need to be very, very careful at this moment so that the gains that have been hard won by the behaviours and action of our population are sustained. Individual behaviour and government support to that behaviour extremely important, and I would urge extreme caution in the complete lifting of public health and social measures at this time because there are consequences for that.
As famous for his thrill-seeking lifestyle and publicity stunts as for his vast business empire, Richard Branson has set his sights on the stars as he prepares for liftoff on his first space flight. Before this weekend's mission on Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two, Unity, the avowed Star Trek fan attributed his drive and taste for adventure to his mother, Eve, who died from COVID in January. Branson was said to have been a below-average student who suffered from dyslexia. His headmaster at private school in southern England apparently telling him he would either go to prison or become a millionaire. He set up the Virgin Records when he was just 20 and earned his first £1 million 3 years later, buying his own Caribbean island a few years afterwards. His mother was an air stewardess, so perhaps he was following in the family footsteps when he set up his airline in 1984. Branson, who was knighted in 2000 for his services to entrepreneurship, had hoped to join a commercial flight with Virgin Galactic as early as 2009. But its timeline has been hit by a series of delays, including a tragic crash in 2014 that claimed the life of a test pilot. Space is hard, but worth it. We will persevere and move forward together, he said, following that crash.
We have more news for you. Please stay tuned.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Cause you're always in me. Yes, you're
us on Letters and Music online this coming Sunday, July 11, only here in the 25.
Welcome back. Anime lover and artist Jenipa Neva Sabut has painted 50 portraits of her favorite dead anime characters to explore the impact of the death of fictional characters on the audience. Take a look.
คอไอเดียที่เราเอามาทำตัวงาน 2D After Life ก็ตรงนี้นะคะเพราะว่าการตายของตัวละครสมมุติเนี่ยทำไมมันถึงมี impact ให้กับคนที่มีชีวิตอยู่จริงเราเรียนรู้อะไรจากเขาได้บ้างในแบบที่ชีวิตประจำวันของเราไม่ได้เจอทั่วๆไปแต่เขาสามารถสอดแทรกแง่คิดหรือว่าการเดินทางอะไรก็ตามที่เขาเผชิญมามันสื่อมาถึงเราได้เราเห็นเขาเป็นคนจริงๆในความทรงจำของเราเหมือนเขาเป็นญาติเป็นพี่น้องเราก็เลยทำมันออกมาให้เป็นเหมือนคนจริงมันก็เลยดูสื่อชัดมากกว่าการที่จะเป็นลายเส้นของอาจารย์ปกติก็คือถ้าสมมติว่าหนูวาดเป็นลายเส้นอาจารย์ปกติมันก็คือแฟนอาร์ตธรรมดาไม่ใช่ลายเส้นหนูก็เลยใส่อะไรแบบนี้ไปเลย
And now here's MJ Racajo for his latest showbiz update.
Hello everyone, MJ Racajo here. Here is the showbiz update. Oscar-nominated and Emmy Award-winning director R.J. Cutler recently joined him in a virtual conversation presented by American Cinematheque. Now he talks about the new documentary film Belushi.
Being discovered and rediscovered by generations all the time. You know, the beauty of Saturday Night Live is that it lives on in the culture, and as the film so amply demonstrates, you know, the very roots of Saturday Night Live are John's work as a visionary, as a gatherer. This film had a number of challenges. We're talking about John comes of age at a time, and he's born and then comes of age at a time where home film is limited. People aren't sitting on, people don't have one of these. I've got about 30 hours of my 6-year-old's life.
One of those things you hear about in storybooks.
They've all got their opinions, but then what do they know?
John said to me, I want to be an actor and create.
Where the hell do you go?
We fell in love the most.
A featured documentary from award-winning filmmaker R.J. Cutler about the true short life of John Belushi, the once-in-a-generation talent who captured the hearts and funny bones of audiences worldwide. Told using previously unheard audio tapes, this film examines Belushi's extraordinary life in the words of his collaborators, friends, and family. That is it for Showbiz Update. Until next time, MJ Racajo here. We live in interesting times.
And Matt Damon brought a slice of redneck Middle America to Cannes with Stillwater, a film about a washed-up oil worker who seeks to save his daughter and their damaged relationship. It has been a very French affair from the start, set in Marseille on France's southern coast, made with a mostly French crew and French co-writers and featuring local star Camille Cotton of Call My Agent fame. Let's listen in.
No, I absolutely loved it, and we could not have been more welcomed. And I mean, we really were. We were there for months, so we shot all over that city and all these different neighborhoods. And I just think it's a spectacular place. I remember saying to Tom a few weeks into shooting, like, wow, if I was a young guy in France, like this is the city I would live in. There's so much culture and diversity, and just the vibe and the energy is just fantastic. And I mean, I couldn't say. Yeah, I mean, if you know, Oklahoma's, I think was the reddest state in the last 2 elections. And you talk to those roughnecks, they're always going to vote. I mean, they're in the oil business. Their livelihood depends on that. And so I don't even think it's a question at all. And I think we didn't want to make it expressly political, you know. And I think that, you know, he is who he is and he's from where he's from, and the movie has a lot of empathy for him, and so do we.
Et nous avons le grand plaisir d'accueillir l'équipe du film Stillwater, présentée hors compétition pour ce 74e Festival de Cannes. Voilà donc réuni, bien sûr, interprété devant la caméra de Gus Van Sant, il a ensuite tourné dans l'idéaliste transporteur de
And I saw this necklace. It was gold, said Stillwater on it. I thought it'd be a little piece of home to take with you.
Some folks are born made to weather fly.
You're in Marseille for vacation?
Visit my daughter.
Stillwater centers on Damon's Bill Baker, an Oklahoma oil rig roughneck with a shoddy past, as a father who heads to Marseille, hell-bent on freeing his daughter Abigail Breslin, an exchange student imprisoned for murdering her girlfriend, a crime she says she didn't commit. And he is the proverbial fish out of water who finds an ally in a local single mother played by Camille Cotton and her daughter Lelou Siovod. Although premiering in Cannes, Stillwater is playing out of competition at the festival, which runs to July 17. Take a look.
She's my little girl. Dad, please. I'm not gonna give up.
It will be a serious mistake to commit a crime. To prove your daughter innocent, it will not get her out of jail. And it will send you in.
Lord, please keep a watchful eye on Allison. Amen.
What did you do?
You just have to trust me.
I wonder if that's going to be made available here in the Philippines.
I know.
It looks good.
And I like Matt Damon.
We do love him. We do love him. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I am CJ Hero. We'll see you again on Monday.
And at the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. We'll see you back Monday. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.